Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Rajajanarajana Jamunatira Manachari Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, Text number 41. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: when the conditioned soul accepts the shelter of the creeper or fruit of activity, he may be elevated by his pious activities to higher planetary systems and thus gain liberation from hellish conditions. But unfortunately, he cannot remain there. After reaping the results of his pious activities, he has to return to the lower planetary systems, and this way he perpetually goes up and comes down. Purport: in this regard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Even if one wanders for many millions of years from the time of creation until the time of annihilation, one cannot get free from the path of material existence unless one receives shelter at the lotus feet of a pure devotee. As a monkey takes shelter of the branch of a banyan tree and thinks he is enjoying, the conditioned soul, not knowing the real interests of his life, takes shelter of the path of karmakanda, fruit of activities. Sometimes he is elevated to the heavenly planets by such activities, and sometimes he again descends to earth. This is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Brahmanda Brahmite. However, if by Krishna's grace one is fortunate enough to come under the shelter of the Guru, by the mercy of Krishna, he receives lessons on how to execute devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In this way, he receives a clue of how to get out of his continuous struggle up and down within the material world. Therefore, the Vedic injunction is that one should approach a spiritual master. The Vedas declare tad viknanartam sagurum evha bigachet. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita 434, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya ubudekshantite jnanam ganinas tattva darshinaha. Quote, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.321 gives similar advice. Tasma gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam shabdhe pare chanishnatam brahmani upashamashrayam. Quote, any person who seriously desires to achieve real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter from him by initiation. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Similarly, Vishwanath Chakravarti, a great Vaishnava, also advises Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. Quote, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the mercy of Krishna. This is the same advice given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. This is essential. One must come to Krishna consciousness, and therefore one must take shelter of a pure devotee. Thus one can become free from the clutches of matter. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the living entity is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nitya Bahir Mukh, perpetually turned away from Krishna. Bahir Mukha, Mukha means face, and Bahir means to be external or outward facing. So the soul is described as Nitya Baharmukh. He's perpetually turned away from Krishna from a time without beginning. And therefore he's perpetually in the ocean of samsara, Nitya samsara, under the care of the witch of Maya, Maya Pishachi. And the witch of Maya, her service is to see to it that the living entity is punished. That's her basic service. Not very positive, huh? Her basic service is to see to the punishment of the living entity through threefold miseries. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes Kama Krodhera Dhas Hana Taralatikai Brahmite Brahmite Yadi Sadhu Vaidyapai. So the living entity is Kama Krodhera Das. He's the servant of Kam and Krodha. He's actually being kicked by Maya. Taralati Kai means Maya is kicking him actually, just like a football, or in America, a soccer ball. Soccer ball doesn't have any independent existence as such. He's simply being kicked around. So similarly, the soul in the material world is just being kicked around by the witch of Maya. Sometimes she kicks him with her gym shoe called Kama, and then sometimes with the shoe called Krodha. And this way, he's just being whipped constantly by the material energy, just like football being kicked. The living entity thinks he is making his own decisions, but actually he's being kicked and forced to act in that particular situation. And sometimes, due to being kicked in this way, he's taking shelter. The language here is divine or fruitive activity. And so sometimes doing pious activities, going up to the Swargaloka, and enjoying there for some time, and then coming down, and in this way, continually being kicked in this way, constantly, perpetual. That's all this chapter is describing, the up and down motions of the conditioned soul. And this continues, Brahmite, Brahmite. Brahmite means he's wandering like this, up and down, up and down, up and down, constantly. And it goes on until he gets a chance to meet a spiritual physician, Sadhu Vaidyapai. Then, by the association of a spiritual physician, Mahaprabhu explains, Tanur Upadesha Mantre Pishachi Palai Krishna Bhakti Pai Tabe Krishna Nikatayai. By the association of that sadhu, then the sadhu's Upadesha mantra, his instructions and his hymns. I don't know what the hymns mean exactly. Perhaps the mantra that he gives you, or maybe his kirtan. But by his instructions and by his kirtan, let's say, Tanya Upadesha Mantra, Pishachi Palai, the witch of Maya flees. Otherwise, she's not going anywhere. She's just simply forcing herself upon us. And there's nothing we can do about it. So one is very helpless. But by the instructions and kirtan of the Sadhu Vaidya, spiritual doctor, then the witch of Maya goes fleeing, and one can get bhakti, Krishna Bhakti Pai. He obtains bhakti. And then by bhakti, he can go to Krishna. So then, all these verses really is just an explanation of an indirect way of emphasizing the necessity of taking association of sadhus. Another verse is there, Nimagya umachatam gore bhavado paramayanam santo brahmavida shanta nodru devapsu majatam. So this verse says the living entity is, Nimagya means submerged, going under, Umajatam, sometimes rising, in the horrible ocean of material existence, Gore, Bhava Ado, the horrible ocean of material existence. So just like if you were pulled out to sea, if you don't know how to swim, that's very bad. But even if you know how to swim, sometimes you're going under the water, sometimes rising by the strength of the waves of the water, sometimes going down, sometimes coming up. So also in this ocean of material existence, sometimes going under, sometimes going up. Gore Bhavado, in this horrible ocean of material existence. So what is the supreme shelter? Paramayana. When you're in such a situation, drowning in an ocean like that, what do you require? You require money? You don't require money. You require intoxication. You inquire illicit sexual activities. What do you require? If you're drowning in the ocean like that, what do you require? A lifesaver. Lifesaver. What's a lifesaver? Like what? Huh? A hand. We need a little bit more than a hand. What do you require? A boat, isn't it? A strong boat, not a canoe. If you get a canoe in that type of situation, it'll be very discouraging. You need a strong boat, isn't it? A strong boat to help you cross over the ocean. So similarly, this ocean of samsara is there, and we're sometimes going under to hellish existence, sometimes rising to what we perceive to be a nicer situation. But this is going on perpetually, nitya samsara. So how to cross over such an ocean, which is ultimately the cause of the soul's lamentation? Then you need a strong boat. So what is that strong boat? Yeah. Yeah, the guru, association of sadhu, Santa Brahmavida Shanta, Nodri Devapsu Majitam. So the verse says, the association of Santa devotees who are fixed in the absolute truth, Brahmavida, and therefore Shanta, they're completely peaceful. Then they are compared to a strong boat, Nodri Devapsu Majitam, a strong boat that helps one cross over the material existence. Such a sadhu is described here in the purport. Prabhupada quotes some verses from Bhagavatam. Such a sadhu is called Tattvadarshi. He is seeing the absolute truth. What does that mean, he is seeing the absolute truth? It means he is seeing the absolute truth with his two eyes. And he sees the absolute truth. It means he's realized Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. And Shabda Pare Chanishnatam Brahmani Upashamashrayam. He is completely immersed in the conclusions of the Shastra, Shabda Brahman. And therefore he's able to convince his disciples on the strength of that Shastric understanding. Unless one is fully conversant with the conclusions of Shastras, then it is not advisable that he becomes Guru. Because then he will not be able to remove the doubts of his disciples. With the Shastric knowledge, they will come to doubt him and leave him. Also, Brahmani Upashamashraya, he has abandoned all material attachment. Such a guru is compared to a strong boat that helps one to cross over the ocean of material existence. So how does one get the association of such a devotee? By good fortune. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. If one is fortunate, then you get opportunity for such association. Fortunate means not only the chance to associate with devotees, that may come up a lot by good fortune, but more fortunate is that the sadhu shows mercy to you. This is the most important point, because ultimately you have to associate with a devotee that inspires your devotional service. There may be many devotees there, and in a general way, it is all good association because there are many devotees. But ultimately, the devotee that inspires your devotion, that personality becomes guru, diksha guru, shiksha guru, or sadhu whom you want to follow. Unless they can inspire your devotion, then you won't be able to gain much inspiration for further progress. Of course, you can serve them and make some spiritual advancement. But it is mentioned by Jiva Goswami that it's most important that one gets the association of sadhus who show compassion toward us. Otherwise, we can't develop attachment to them. This is the point. This is the point that Jiva Goswami makes, which is I thought was kind of interesting and compelling. That you have to associate with sadhu prasangam ajaram pasham atmanam kavayo vidu. Sareva sadhushu krita moksha dharma parvitam. Kapila Dev says that learned persons understand that attachment to matter is the cause of bondage, the greatest cause of bondage, obviously. And that same strong attachment when applied to sadhus opens the door of liberation. So the question comes, how do I become attached to sadhu? This question often comes up. Devotees ask this question. How do I become attached to sadhu? Also, we sing every morning, Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttamagati. By attachment to Guru, then one has achieved the highest destination. Because by that attachment, the door of liberation is open. So how do I get attached to sadhu? It's very difficult to become attached to anyone in this material world. I mean, of course, sense objects, that's not a problem. But to become attached to things that are good for us is not usually very easy. Especially to become attached to sadhus is very challenging for various reasons. So how do we become attached to sadhu? So Jiva Goswami, he points out, I just read it yesterday, it was interesting, that the sadhu has to show compassion to you. You have to experience his compassion toward you. Only then you will feel inspired to develop attachment for such a sadhu. It seems to me the indication is that there may be many sadhus that one may be having to be hovering around, that may actually be there. But somehow the Christian may not be inspiring them or you to establish a relationship of a very intimate nature. But then out of all such sadhus, there is one sadhu that may be there that is specifically compassionate toward us. And that inspires our devotion in so many ways. It inspires our sense of surrender. So then that type of sadhu is most auspicious. To get such association, one is called Bhagavan, he becomes fortunate. And by such fortune, he gets the Bhakti Lata Bija. He gets the seed of real faith. Real faith is characterized by full surrender. So it is important. This is obviously an important feature. One is fortunate if he gets the association of a like-minded devotee who is more advanced and compassionate toward oneself. And that way one becomes attached to such a personality. And then by such attachment, you, how you say? Um, get on the boat. Strong boat is there, but now you have to get on the boat. So how to get on the boat? By strong attachment, that is getting on the boat. Otherwise, strong boat is there, you're not getting on, then that is not going to help us. So association of sadhu is there, but we have no attachment for sadhu. Then this up and down motion continues in the material world. So in order to get on the boat, attachment is required. And in that way, we cross over the ocean of material existence, this horrible ocean which we're rising and falling in perpetually. So this section of the Bhagavatam, which may seem very negative to some persons with limited vision of the Shastras, is actually meant to indirectly glorify and show the necessity of taking the shelter of sadhu. One way is to glorify sadhus. We call that the positive approach as such. We hear the glories of the sadhus, so we feel inspired to take shelter of them. And the other way is to show the faults of the material nature, which also indirectly inspires our association with sadhus. Otherwise, the material nature is always posing very attractive features for us, which seems perfectly valid, and in certain cases even more substantial than the association with sadhus. Because association with sadhus may not always inspire our propensities for sensual enjoyment. And the features of Maya seem, in that sense, more attractive. And the material nature is very expert. She knows us left, right, and center. Because she's been with us since the beginning of our existence as such in conditioned life. So she knows exactly what it's going to take to bring us down. So that's kind of scary. Someone knows exactly what it takes to bring you down. It's just like I was a chess player, and you would play. We had teams, I was part of one team, and we would play other high schools. And after some time, you got familiar with all the openings that your opponents would play. So then before you would play them, you would study that particular opening. They have books for all the various openings. Just like I have so many books in my room now. I used to have books like all chess books, shelves full of chess books, which I used to study for 10 plus hours a day. And when you would have to face these opponents, okay, they like this particular opening. So we used to study that opening very thoroughly for hours and hours and hours so we could know how to take them down when we play them. And when you sat down to play them, you would feel very much confident that I'm going to bring them down now. Maya's like that. She knows everything, our whole psychology, because she's gifted it to us after all. The body and the psychology we have is a gift of Maya, so to speak. So she knows exactly what we're going to do. And so it's not very difficult for her to bring us down, to present something that's attractive for our particular psychology and bring us down. So therefore we hear the faults of the material nature to indirectly inspire our taking refuge of devotees. That is the importance of this apparently negative presentation of spiritual philosophy, is to actually inspire something very positive, that taking refuge of devotees. Otherwise, we're taking refuge, durashraya ye, bahir artamanina. Durashraya. Durashraya means what? Yeah, false shelter or bad shelter. It's taking shelter of money, taking shelter of our intelligence, taking shelter of women or men. Like this, so many false shelters we're taking. We're not taking refuge in the real shelter. So here's a reason why we should do that. The so-called apparent negative presentation of Krishna consciousness. For those who are fearful of falling, becoming degraded in this material world, arvak bibhyato. One who is fearful of degradation in this material world, then santa aranam, then he takes refuge in devotees. Simple. That's all the purport is saying, as far as I can see. Is it supposed to inspire our shelter-taking propensity of devotees? Are there any questions? Okay, I saw.
Krishna, thank you for your class. Um, I'm wondering if the reason why we're not able to take shelter of devotees when, like, either we're going through some physical distress or mental distress is because usually when those distresses are not there, we haven't taken shelter of devotees either. We think we've taken shelter, but it's not really taking shelter. It's more like, the Bhogya darshan versus the Seva darshan. So then when there's a problem and Maya throws a curveball at us, um, we don't spontaneously take shelter of devotees. Is that the proper understanding?
Yeah, we're not taking shelter because we haven't fully appreciated the futility of material existence. That's the reason we don't take shelter. Therefore, this verse is quoted here. Tasma gurum prapadyeta jignasu shaya uttamam. So I've often mentioned this point. The word tasmad means therefore. So you don't start a sentence off like therefore. I don't start class off therefore, and then everyone becomes bewildered. So if you say if the tasma therefore means it's referring to something that was just previously discussed. Some antecedent was just previously discussed. So what was the antecedent to this verse? These verses are spoken by Pipalayana, I think, one of the Navayogindras. And he speaks a series of, the chapter is called How to Get Out of Maya. That's actually the title of the chapter. And he gives a series of verses detailing the faults of material existence. And then before quoting this verse, Tasma Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam, the point is made, at least by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in the purport, that unless one realizes the futility of earthly and heavenly sense pleasure, then one cannot actually become Jignasu Shreya Uttamam. That's not possible. So the reason we don't usually take shelter of the Guru fully, because we haven't realized the futility of whatever we're doing in this material world. We actually value it. Anartha. Anartha means false value. Artha means value. Anartha, false value. We are falsely valuing something that we're doing in this material world. We're giving it a lot of importance and value. And on account of that, then not taking shelter. How can you? As long as if any one of us is having some value of anything in this material world, either it be money, either it be women, either it be facility or position and prestige, whatever it may be, then how is it we can take shelter of Krishna? How can you be Jignasu Shreya Uttama? Therefore, it is observed that a lot of the questions are usually about the body and mind. How to keep the body peaceful, how to keep the mind peaceful. Why? So I can more effectively enjoy on this material world. We want to use our knowledge and experience of the transcendental to adjust our existence here in the material world instead of just finish it off. So on account of that, then not taking refuge. That's simple understanding. Tasma gurun prapati. Therefore, after realizing the futility of this material existence, guru prapati ta. Take shelter of the guru. So then someone's gonna say, well, it's not that we are to wait until we realize the futility of the material existence, because that's a gradual process. We'll hear like that. That may be true, but then the point is that until you realize that whatever so-called shelter you're taking may not actually be substantial. And therefore, when there's a curveball, as you put it, from Maya, then one is contemplating leaving the Christian consciousness movement. That means that there wasn't, there's shisha, and then there's shisha praya. Shisha means a disciple. Shisha praya means it looks like a disciple. And as long as one is valuing anything in the material world, then all it will take is a couple of curveballs from Maya to inspire the contemplation of leaving the Christian consciousness movement. One is Guru Prapadyata. One really takes shelter of the Guru when he realizes there's nothing this material world has to offer me. He comes to the Guru with all his necessities satisfied already. He's not coming to the Guru to take anything from the Guru, but he comes to serve Guru. What is that? Tavidi panipatena pariprashnena sevaya. He comes to the Guru with all his necessities satisfied, or how you say? Yeah, satisfied. He's not come to take anything from Guru. He comes already with all his material necessities satisfied. Realizing the futility of the material existence, he's come to render service to that realm, not to take from that realm, to adjust to this realm. In that way, you could call it Guru Prapadita, shelter of the Guru. Then your inquiry is Jignasu Shreya Uttama. Your inquiry is about something high, not something low. Okay. Oh, sorry.
On this point of taking shelter, you also mentioned that Jiva Goswami says that only the sadhu who's willing to show you mercy, only to that person you can become attached. But generally, we heard that all sadhus are merciful. That's their nature is to be merciful,
No,
like the
it's a
scorpion
general
example.
mercy, and they're specific to you. Just like a sadhu shows up into the audience, that is his mercy. Just by making an appearance is merciful. Just by seeing a sadhu, one can get so much purification. One may get some general inspiration. But how do I specifically make progress toward the goal of life? Then one needs shiksha. Just like when you're going on a road trip, you may conceive of the trip in a general way in the beginning. But then once you actually start taking the trip, so many obstacles may come up. I'm running out of gas. We have to get off here. We need to take rest. We need to eat. We got a flat tire. Many obstacles come up. So in the beginning, you conceive of the trip in a general way. I have to get to New York by taking I-80 like this, the route. But then once you're on the trip, so many things come up which require to be tended to in a specific way. So then similarly, devotees, they're general mercy and then more specific to us. General mercy gives us a general inspiration to stick to Krishna consciousness. You see a very senior and advanced Vaishnava, then you may get inspired that one day I can also become like that. That's a general inspiration. But how do I actually become like that? Then so much shiksha may be required. So then there may be a devotee who's performing that specific function by the grace of Krishna, giving so much of shiksha, how to deal with the obstacles on the way of getting to the destination. And that way, general mercy and specific mercy, like that. All sadhus, of course, are merciful, but we don't become attached to all sadhus. And at least from what I was understanding, from what I was reading, the reason for that is quite apparent, actually. Because some sadhu is showing some mercy to me, I naturally get attached to that sadhu. It's a very common sense point, actually. So it's not that we are to become impersonalists and think that, everyone is equal in the sense that everyone should have exactly the same place in our heart as everyone else. That actually is not possible. There will be a general regard for all sadhus on account of their being devoted to Krishna. There will be a general appreciation for all devotees on account of their being attached to Krishna in any way. anyone who has any appreciation for Krishna is a devotee in a general way. But finally, it will require like-minded Sangha in order for us to gain the necessary inspiration for further progress. That is the teaching that we hear. And it's quite obvious also in terms of experience. Hare Krishna. You can hand the mic back.
You always very nicely describe how Maya's whipping us, or today she was kicking us.
Taralatikai, like a football.
There's a couple of funny stories about Maya. One is
Oh, can you speak closer? Yes, we can.
Ratad Vajaswami. He was from North Dakota, and the nearest temple was in, I'm not sure if it was in Regina, Saskatchewan, or Winnipeg, Manitoba. I think it was Winnipeg. So the devotees there are young and enthusiastic, but not so advanced. So first thing was, it was a waste of Krishna's energy to keep the heat on, so the house was freezing cold. And he had a red jacket on. And they said, it's offensive to wear something red in front of the deities. So he was there shivering because he couldn't wear his jacket. It was freezing in there. And then his girlfriend's name was Maya. And the whole time they're saying, Maya is kicking you. Maya is trying to make you suffer. We have to get out of the clutches of Maya. So it was an extraordinary experience for him.
He must have been extraordinarily sincere. To not leave after
Either
that.
or that or the point about. Another one is Srila Prabhupada initiated this one devotee girl, and
No? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay, if you don't see the number,